Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now today's video, as you can probably tell by what we've got here on the desk, it's going to be a very Windows XP themed video, but no, it's not going to be about Eddie Reliable Trustman here, the famous bobblehead that I got actually up in this video if you want to go ahead and check that out. Today's video is going to be about Windows Server 2003. Which is a topic that I've covered not really a whole lot on this channel. We did a tutorial back in like 2015, and I believe that's really the only time that we've done a dedicated video on Windows Server 2003. But that all changes today because I got a very generous donation by a viewer named Patrick out in Australia. This came from the Australia Post. This package was on the shelf somewhere in Australia. And Patrick used it to ship me Windows Server 2003 R2, which is the release to the second edition of Windows Server 2003. So this arrived a while ago actually, but it didn't make it into that viewer donations video because that video was recorded like last month and this package didn't get here until this month. But that actually worked out because in today's video we're not only going to be doing the unboxing of this, but we're also going to be installing it on not the $5.98 PC, but on that Dell Latitude D610. So we're going to be kind of doing a dual video, an unboxing and installation, as you can probably tell from the title. So let's just go ahead and crack this open. So here is the packaging, the little seal here. We're going to go ahead and tear this open here. And we're going to go ahead and pull out what's inside. So here it is. It is all contained in this package right here. So this is actually the small business server variant of Windows Server 2003, the license pack. I believe he mentioned there are 5 client licenses in here. So over here, this sticker right here says this license pack contains a license code valid for Microsoft Windows Small Business Server client access licenses. Use the license code to install the number of licenses printed on the license agreement, which in this case is 5. So we're going to go ahead and just open this up here. Now this has been opened up and actually used before, but none of these licenses are in use right now. That's what Patrick told me. So that's pretty awesome. So we're going to go ahead and pull everything out. Now I've never owned Server 2003 in like a physical form, so this is pretty awesome. And I think that, because like I said, I've covered 2003 in a tutorial that's like, it was 5 years ago. And that was just a kind of, quick installation tutorial, but we've never actually taken a look at this operating system in depth, and we're going to be doing that somewhat today. But I'm also going to be using this to go through essentially the Windows Server upgrade saga. You guys probably know that I've done this kind of experiment many times on this channel with many various versions of Windows where we try to start at a very early version and upgrade to a much later version. We did it from 1.0 to Windows 7 on the 98 PC. We did it from Windows NT 3.1 to, well, we're actually not able to get to Windows 7 yet. That's for a whole nother video, but we did that as well. We haven't done it with Windows Server yet, so this may definitely come in handy for that video. We will see. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and set this aside, and we're going to move on to what we've got in this box here. So this right here is the Small Business Server 2003 software license terms, as you can see. Now, this is still sealed, and it's on the back here. It does have the product key, which I'm obviously not going to show you. But yes, this is still sealed. This was never opened, and I'm probably going to keep it that way because the software key is a sticker that's contained on the back, and obviously if you tear this shrink wrap off, that sticker is going to come off with it, because you are supposed to take this sticker and peel it off and stick it on whatever computer that you're installing this on. So now this right here is your client access license. So this is your, there's 5 different licenses. This is basically paperwork to prove that you have legally purchased these 5 licenses. There's no information, there's like no product code or anything like that on this page, but on this second page, this right here is the license code. I'm not going to actually show you the license code, but so this is what you would have to, again, prove that you actually have purchased this legally. So yeah, that's 2 very important pieces of paper. We'll set that aside with the license agreement. Right here we have the pre-installation quick reference manual. This is literally a quick information manual, so we will set that aside. So yeah, these right here are the installation CDs. Now there are 2 CDs contained in each one of these sleeves. I can show you that by going on the back here and opening this up. You see we've got 2 different discs in there. So this is disc number 1 and disc number 2. And this right here is disc number 3, and disc number 4 is on the back side. So there are 4 installation CDs that you have to use to get everything installed. Then you also have this service pack or release 2 or R2 technologies CD. You can probably see that right there. So this is not needed for the installation of the operating system, but it does contain some useful information. So we'll go ahead and set that aside as well. And this last disk right here is actually pretty cool because it is the Windows Small Business Server 2003 R2 OEM pre-installation kit. So this was for use only by system builders, as you can see right here. This was not for distribution to the end users. And yeah, from Microsoft System Builder. So this will be pretty useful to check out if we can check this out during installation. So yeah, this is pretty awesome, and yeah, it's something that, again, end users would not have access to because they would not get this CD. Last but not least, we have a letter here from Patrick. We'll go ahead and open this up. So check that out. It looks like this was written at the Shangri-La Hotel, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, in Sydney, Australia. So it says, Michael, I hope this letter finds you well. I found this copy when I was cleaning out my room, and being a fan of your channel, I thought you should have it. So yeah, again, Patrick, thank you so much. I mean, this is just really, really awesome of you to send this all the way from Australia, literally halfway across the world, to me here in the US. And I think that this letterhead is just really awesome because I guess you were at this hotel when you wrote this. So yeah, that's just pretty awesome, man. Thank you so much. So yeah, guys, let's go ahead and get this thing installed. I'm going to pull out the Dell Latitude D610, and we're going to, we're going to install this on a laptop, which is not where it was intended to be installed at all. But I don't have a server machine. I mean, I have like a few desktop computers. Most of them are in storage right now, so I don't have access to them. But the only desktop I have right here, aside from my main computer, is the 98 PC, which I don't really want to install Server 2003 on that, at least right now, especially since, again, the state of limbo that computer has been in for like a month now, and you guys probably know about that if you saw the NT Upgrade Saga series of videos. Yeah, I'm going to pull out the Dell Latitude D610, and we're going to do the possibly first ever installation of Windows Server 2003 on a laptop computer. So let's just jump right into that. Alright guys, so here we are on the Dell Latitude D610. You can see we're booted here into Windows XP. The activation timer looks to have run out, so it is asking us to activate Windows. We have to activate it to actually log in. So, but that worked out for us because we're going to just wipe this installation and move on with installing Server 2003. Now, fair warning, this is probably going to be a bit of a longer video, but I've heard from some of you guys that you enjoy these longer videos, so that's pretty awesome. Hopefully you'll enjoy this one. I actually have installed it in a VM before, but never on real hardware and never from an OEM copy, because I'm very interested in taking a look at what's on this System Builder CD. I don't know if this is bootable, but we're going to find out. I'm going to pop it into the drive here. So it is reading from it, right? Oh, check that out. It is bootable. Okay, that's pretty awesome. Okay, so it is bootable. You can see it's starting Windows pre-installation environment right now. Now, if this is what I think it is, this is going to be pretty awesome. My guess is this is the disk used to configure the OEM system information. So that's going to be things like who manufactured the computer, the support information, all that stuff where, like in Windows XP and obviously still in Windows 10, when you go into the system properties, at the bottom left of that window that would come up, it would display your OEM logo, and it would give not only stats about your computer, but also who manufactured it, what model it is, and where you can get support for it, like from the system manufacturer. So this might be the CD that we would use to configure that. Looks like we have one of the default XP wallpapers, and it is still actively reading data off of the disk, of course. Okay, so it looks like it changed the screen resolution for us. And there we go, we have a command prompt. So startnet.cmd is what it's running. So factory-winpe is the command it just ran. Yep, factory pre-installation. So it's performing the following actions: setting display resolution, starting networking. There is a network card in this computer, but it's not connected to anything, obviously. So I mean, there's no like Ethernet cable plugged into it. So it's probably not going to be able to really do much with networking. I don't know if you need to have networking to have this all set up properly, like to configure these options. We haven't had any option for user input yet. Like there's not been any way for us to actually input any information to the computer. So that's what we're waiting for, if this is going to even give us the option to have user input. So we've got a command prompt here. So I believe I've kind of figured out what we have to do here. There is a README document on, let me just change task manager be not always on top. There is a README document on the root of this CD, but there is a .doc file, like a Word document file, that contains the step-by-step installation process. Now we can't access that because Microsoft Word is not installed on this, it's not on the CD anywhere. Because basically what I'm trying to do is get access to this step-by-step file, which will basically walk us through, because what we're going to try to do is do an OEM pre-installation of Server 2003 instead of just installing it from the disks like any other copy of Windows. Since we have the tools available to us, we're going to try to do an OEM pre-installation, which would basically set this computer up to where it could be sold in a store. I mean, not this. Just kind of imagine that I was doing this on like a brand new system. This could be sold in a store, and then someone could buy that computer, and then when they would turn it on, it would go through the first boots, like the OEM procedures and all of that. Just obviously with Server 2003. So this server could be sold in a store somewhere, or just directly to businesses and be ready to go as soon as they get it. So that's basically the state we're going to set this computer up in. However, it looks like we're not able to launch Write. Is it running in the background here? No, I don't think it's running in the background. You can see that Write.exe is not running, but Write.exe is in System32. I mean, we can, and yeah, you see there it is right there, Write.exe. So it is here. What I might have to do is just put this disk into my host computer and just try to copy, just print out the document and then just work off of that. Now, going by this document right here, it says these steps. Now, this is installing the Greek version, but it says pre-install the operating system, pre-install Windows Small Business Server 2003 by using setup/OEM. So I thought, okay, maybe we can try that. So I went back. Obviously, we got to go to the X drive here, and you can run setup/OEM. But I don't know if this is going to. Yeah, please go to Control Panel to install and configure system components. So we have to pre-install the operating system first, I believe. Alright, welcome back everybody. So as you can see, I've got some printed out documentation here. I was reading over that document, just kind of skimming through it. It is a 47-page document, so there's a lot of information contained in there, but I printed out some of the stuff that pertains to what we're trying to do here. So I'm going to be going through it with you guys right now, because from what it looks like, we're not going to be able to install Server 2003 the way we're trying to do here, which is pre-installing it on this computer, and I'm going to explain why. So this is the overview of the pre-installation process right here, and it tells you that you need to have at least one, you need to have one of the following configurations, listed in order of preference. So the preferred way for you to pre-install Server 2003 on a computer is to have a technician computer that contains one network adapter plus a network router or server running Windows Server 2003 that is configured as a DHCP server. In addition, you need a master computer that also contains one network adapter. This option gives you the maximum pre-installation flexibility. Now, 3 out of these 4 options require a separate computer, a technician computer, and it also mentions a master computer. So we don't have, I don't have that properly set up. I don't have like another computer that I can set up as the master computer and one as the technician computer. This is really designed for to do multiple installs, which you would obviously want to do. You would obviously want to have a way to automate this process. If you were an OEM computer manufacturer and you had computers that you wanted to get Windows installed on, you obviously want a pretty quick way to do that, so you don't have to have one guy go around and sit in front of each computer, pre-install it, and then move on to the next machine. That's going to take a considerable amount of time, and having it automated, having a very streamlined process where you can use a master computer and this technician computer to really speed up the process and automate everything. That doesn't really pertain to us, but I would like to explore this method in maybe a future video, and if you guys want to see that, and be sure to let me know. But option 4 here is what pertains to us, and it says you can pre-install Windows without using a network. However, you lose considerable flexibility in doing so. For information on this option, see Appendix A, non-networked pre-installation from CD. So I have that right here. So here is the non-networked pre-installation from CD instructions. And right off the bat, it gives you a bunch of disadvantages, and you can see that this entire first page is pretty much dedicated to the disadvantages of doing this, as opposed to using one of the other 3 methods that they have on this page here. But at the bottom, it tells you the process, so that's going to be contained on the next page. And what this looks to be is creating an answer file. Now, this is something that we've explored in some unofficial Windows versions that will automate the setup process by creating an answer file. But this option still requires another computer because it says you have to run the version of Setup Manager that is located in the deploy.cab file on the Windows product CD. Obviously, you can't do that with a computer that doesn't have any operating system on it, so you would need a separate computer. We could do it in this case just by booting into the existing XP installation that's on this thing. It says right here, this version offers the option of pre-installing Windows XP, or in this case Server 2003, from a CD. The answer file created is called wint.sif, or SIF. So you have to edit that file. It gives you, a kind of sample layout of that file here. You have to put in a product key here. This is where you can customize the full name and the org name. Basically what this does is it automates all the user prompts that Windows Setup will ask you for. By having this answer file, the setup program will be able to refer to this for all those options and it won't ask you for anything. And if you've seen any of the unofficial Windows versions videos that I've done, it's very common for the authors of those versions to have this functionality in use because a lot of them are automated and they don't ask you for anything, and they are using this method to accomplish that. However, down here it says you have to copy, so yeah, this is going to be the text document. You have to rename it wint.sif. You have to insert the XP product CD, which would be, again, the Server 2003 product CD, into your computer. And then it says, when the press a key message appears, press any key and insert the floppy disk containing wint.sif. So you need to have this file stored on a floppy disk because obviously you can't really add anything to these CDs because they are already created. These are not rewritable CDs. Plus, these are all full anyways. So we need to have a floppy disk to accomplish that. Now, this computer does not have a floppy disk drive. So even if we wanted to go about that route, it looks like we can't. So, like I said, I definitely want to explore this unattended setup, or not just the unattended setup, but the OEM setup process in a future video. And if you guys want to see that, and if I can get a proper setup going, we can definitely do that. But for right now, we are going to revert to just installing Server 2003 just like any other version of Windows. So we're going to pop in disk number 1. Here it is right here in all of its glory. I'll bring it up here so you can see it. There is disk number 1. We're going to pop that into this computer's CD drive. Here we are at the top. You can very faintly see it, but it says Windows Server 2003 for Small Business Server Setup. We're going to press enter. Obviously, all of this here is going to be identical to any other version of Windows NT that has this style setup. It's going to come up with the partition selector. We're going to delete the existing partition. We're going to press enter, press L to delete, unpartition space. We're going to install it on that, and we're going to format using the NTFS file system quickly. So there we go. Setup is formatting. Now, it'll be interesting to see if we use all 4 of these CDs. I would think we would, but maybe if we don't select like every option, because obviously Server 2003 is going to have a lot of different components that we can choose to install. So that's probably why there's 4 CDs, because maybe if you didn't want to install all the components, you might only need disks 1 through 3 or disk 1 and 2. Alright everybody, so the system has rebooted and we are loading into the next phase of the setup, which to anyone who's installed Windows XP, it probably looks pretty familiar to you, except for the gray background as opposed to the blue background and the blue color scheme that Windows XP has. Obviously, Server 2003 is essentially the server version of Windows XP, so the interface and everything is going to look visually identical to XP, if not very, very similar. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that Server 2003 has, a lot of functionality that XP doesn't have because it's a server release of the operating system. So we've got the regional language options. We're going to leave these settings as the default because they are correct for me. We're going to put in the name as Michael, and we'll just call this the organization. Let's put OS Forms. I haven't done that in a while. So OS Forms, here is the product key screen. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to type it in. So we've got our product key entered. We're going to put in the computer name as server. Let's say Server 2003. We're not going to bother, we're not going to bother setting up a password for the admin account. And we're going to leave it in the Pacific time zone. That's fine with me. All right, so here we go, guys. We are at the login screen. Now, again, we've only used disk number 1, so we're going to press Control-Alt-Delete, and we're going to log into the administrator account, which again had no password. So here we go, we are logging in. So the operating system itself is now installed, but now it's going to install the small business server. So you see the setup is not actually finished. So this is probably where it's going to ask us for disk number 2, 3, and 4. It's just done once we're actually booted into Windows. And you see we have that continuing Microsoft Windows Small Business Server setup. So it says Windows Server 2003 for Small Business Server has been installed. Setup will now perform the following steps. Windows configuration, configures your operating system, server applications installation, install server applications and tools such as Exchange Server, and the to-do list, tasks for you to complete the configuration of your Windows Small Business Server. So we're going to hit next to continue, which is actually off the screen here. So it's telling us that a network adapter must be installed. So I do have the driver disk for this laptop, so I'm going to go ahead and see if we can get the network driver installed, because like I said, there is an internal network adapter in this computer. Alright, so we're back, and as you can see, I was able to use the drivers that I had for this laptop on this USB drive to get the network adapter and the display adapter along with some other drivers installed properly on the system. So now we're able to get past that screen where it was giving us that error message before. So it's asking us for our phone number, fax number, address, city, state, zip code, and country region. I wonder if we can just click on next to get past that. It looks like we can. So now it's going to ask us for our full DNS name for the internal domain, the NetBIOS domain name, and the computer name. I'm just going to leave these as the default settings because I don't really have any intention of actually using this server, because this is not set up in the ideal way, like at all, of using a server. This is running on a laptop. This is running over the wireless network as opposed to being connected via Ethernet to the network, which is what you would want for a server that is on 24/7. So I don't really have any intentions of using this as like my own server. There are much better and more modern solutions for that. If I really wanted to do something like that. But this is really just going to be taking a look at the operating system itself. That's the goal of today's video. So we're going to go with these default options and click on next. Now it's going to ask us, it says it's already found a DHCP server. We're going to just say no to use my existing DHCP server. Alright, so the machine had to restart one time before we were presented with this screen right here, but this is where it's going to ask us what components we want to select. And right now we've got everything selected. So we have all of these components selected, and all of the child components as well. So we're going to go ahead and click on next. We have plenty of space available, and at this point it should, I would think, like we're still on disk number 1. We haven't even put in disk number 2 yet. So maybe we won't have to use all of these disks. I don't know, maybe these disks, some of these other ones contain information or something like that, but they do say on it, well, it just says disk 4. It doesn't say anything like installation disk 4. So even if we don't use all of these during this install process, I will, towards the end of the video, explore whatever disks that we haven't used yet. Alright, so great news, everybody. The setup wizard is asking for disk number 2. So we're going to go ahead and eject disk number 1. And I'm going to put disk number 2 into this laptop. So out comes disk number 1. Here is disk number 2, although it looks exactly the same to you guys because the only thing different is the numbering of it. And we're going to press OK. Alright, so right now the system is asking for disk number 3, so I'm going to eject disk number 2 here. And this requires us to go into the second sleeve of disks. And again, there are 2 in here. So we're going to pull out disk number 3, which is on the back side here. So disk number 4 is still in there. And we're going to swap disk 2 for disk number 3. So we'll put that in and we will press OK. Alright, so it is asking us for disk number 4. I've ejected disk 3 and here is disk number 4. We're going to pop it into the drive. It looks like it wasn't able to install all of the server tools. You can see there's that red X next to server tools there. Now we're on server configuration though, and it is asking for disk 4, so we're going to click on OK. And this is the final disk for the setup disks themselves. Again, we do have the R2 Technology CD, which we'll take a look at after we get done with setup. but the setup itself looks to be almost completed. Alright, welcome back everybody. So unfortunately, the setup process that I was showing off in the last clip did not complete successfully. What ended up happening was the machine got disconnected from the internet as it was going through that process. So it failed, and we would have to go through that entire process again. And that process took a couple of hours. You guys just haven't seen it because I haven't recorded the entire thing, but it did take a fair amount of time. So I've decided to kind of skip that for now because we can still take a look at the server management application. And like I said, I have no intentions of actually setting up this laptop as a real server to use on my home network. If I wanted to do that, I would have a dedicated video for that. This was really just getting the operating system installed, and we can take a look at the server management program, and we also have to take a look at the contents of this extra CD, which we'll do in a moment. Now, the server management program, this is where you would manage the server, so you can do things like add and manage user accounts, manage your client licenses, which is what is contained on the product key on this sheet right here, or actually on the other sheet, which allows you to have 5 clients that can access the server. You can also manage network shares by clicking on this tab right here, and you can even set up an internal website, sort of an intranet, where you could have other computers access that set of pages, and obviously be hosted from this computer, but only accessible to other machines on the network rather than anybody on the internet. So pretty cool. There's definitely a lot of stuff. There's a lot of functionality contained in this server management program, and obviously we're not going to cover everything in this video because I do want to get on to seeing what is on this other CD right here. This is again the R2 Technologies CD. It looks at first glance just like any of the other installation CDs, but we're going to pop this in and see what's on it. Okay, so we've got a couple of options here. Our first one is a step-by-step installation guide, a how to install guide. We can read the release notes, we can browse the disk, we can install Service Pack 2 for Exchange Server, install Service Pack 2 for Windows SharePoint Services, and install Windows Small Business Server 2003 R2. So if I'm correct here, I believe we're not currently running Server 2003 R2. I believe we've just installed Server 2003. If we go into WinVer here, you can see that although it is Service Pack 2, it's Windows Server 2003. It doesn't say R2 up here. So I believe this wizard will install R2 for our Server 2003 R2. And it tells you the R2 technology contain the following components. These are the components right here. We're going to click on Next. And so it looks like we need to have some components that we don't already have. So we need to have Service Pack 2 for Exchange Server 2003, which is contained on this disk. You must have Windows Small Business Server 2003 administration and monitoring components installed. I don't think this will prevent us from going through setup. And we need to have an instance of the Microsoft, that's the server management. This is the Microsoft Management Console is running. So if we were to close this, we could say check again, and now that's gone. So we have to install this update first. So we'll go ahead and cancel out of this and click yes, and let us install the Service Pack 2 for Exchange Server 2003. So we get the same kind of interface where we can choose what action we want. So we're going to just update all of them. And there we go. It is updating right now. So there we go. The Microsoft Exchange Service Pack 2 has just installed. So we're going to click on Finish, and we should be able to go with the rest of the set, like with the setup we were trying to do initially, because it didn't mention anything about SharePoint services. So it had mentioned whatever that was with the little yellow triangle next to it, but I don't think that will prevent us from installing it. The ones with the red X would prevent us from actually, so we have to click I acknowledge all warnings because this is not a requirement. It's, I guess, just a suggested. It says you must have Windows Small Business Server 2003 administration and monitoring components installed. That's possibly stuff that is installed when you go through the rest of the setup process, but I think we can get past it by checking I acknowledge all warnings, because yeah, that's just a warning as opposed to an error message, so that's why we're getting that. So we're going to agree, and we're going to click on next to install. Alright, great news everybody, it worked, setup successful, and it should, okay, so it's going to bring up the to-do list, so it's just like adding, so these are kind of some management tasks that you can do. We'll just close out of this. Do you have to restart? Yeah, so I guess that, it didn't prompt us to restart, so it doesn't behave, because obviously we didn't install a service pack or anything, we just installed the R2 technologies, all those listed features that we installed or upgraded. So that's pretty awesome, guys. So that means we've successfully installed Windows Small Business Server 2003 R2, at least the operating system. We haven't set up the server part of it yet. That's done through this continue setup where it asks you, and as you guys saw from the process that I was able to record, it asks you for your network information, and it kind of configures all of those settings. And it took, like I said, multiple hours to do that. And it ended up failing because the machine disconnected from the internet during the process. So that's kind of unfortunate, but we were able to get the operating system itself installed, which I think is pretty awesome. So that's going to end it off for today's video. Guys, if you enjoyed this one and if you want to see more like it, definitely be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to get subscribed down below and turn on those channel notifications if you haven't already to get notified whenever I upload a new video, which I do every single week on this channel. I also want to give a huge thank you to Patrick once again for literally making this video possible, and a huge thank you to you guys for watching. And as always, I will see you all in the next video.